The Trump administration is taking aim at a major Canadian export. The U.S. Commerce Department is hiking anti-dumping duties on Canadian softwood lumber to 20.56%. British Columbia lumber organizations are condemning the sharp increase, calling it unjustified, punitive.
Hey folks, it's 10 o'clock a.m. CEST, Tuesday, August 5th, 2025, and the trade world just got a wild shakeup. Picture this. The U.S. Commerce Department just jacked up anti-dumping duties on Canadian softwood lumber to 20.56%, piling on top of the existing 14.5% tariff. Lumber futures spiked fast, markets are buzzing. Ottawa's fired up, promising to fight back and shield its workers from this unfair hit. American bigwigs are bragging they don't need Canada's wood, saying U.S. forests can handle it all. Well, that bold talk's about to face a real test nobody saw coming. This timber tussle started simmering last year and just exploded into a full-on showdown. It kicked off with a sudden tariff jump that rattled builders, and Canada's hitting back hard, maybe even throttling wood exports. Analysts say this could tack on $12,000 to a new home's price by 2027, and that's just the start. Imagine waking up to news that a huge chunk of the lumber framing U.S. homes, about 30%, could vanish from markets overnight. That's no fantasy anymore. On July 15th, Washington slapped a 35% tariff on every Canadian lumber shipment crossing the border. Within hours, panic spread north. Big lumber provinces like Quebec hinted they might tighten the spigot on wood headed south. British Columbia's premier even told Reuters they're eyeing export caps to ease the tension. Suddenly, America's wood lifeline is on shaky ground. One trade report warns that if Canada pushes back, home prices could jump $9,000 in just a couple years. Builders say it's the worst timber crunch since the 1940s. Cut off that supply, and it's not just homes stalling, it's the whole North American supply chain getting a rewrite. What happens when every plank becomes a bargaining chip? Stick around, this clash is about to flip the economy on both sides. This mess didn't pop up overnight. Back on September 1, 2024, the U.S. quietly bumped tariffs on Canadian lumber to 14.54%, nearly doubling the old rate. Canada called it a cheap shot, but it was just a warm-up. That move hit a key supply line hard. 30% of U.S. home lumber comes from up north. Trade folks say losing that wood would be like wiping out last year's entire home building stock. Builders felt the pinch right away. The National Association of Home Builders warned it could add $8,000 to a typical home's cost, and with mortgage rates at 7%, owning a house is slipping further out of reach. Then, on July 15th, Washington cranked it up with that 35% tariff talk about a gut punch. Hours later, Ontario, a lumber powerhouse, slowed its exports to a crawl. Canada ships 27 million cubic meters of softwood to the U.S. yearly. That's 1/3 of America's building wood. If that dries up, it's like losing 15 Empire State Buildings worth monthly. The Financial Times says even a partial cut could add $9,000 to home prices. Builders haven't seen a squeeze this tight since wartime. Can't the U.S. just churn out more lumber? Not so fast. U.S. sawmills want to step up, but it's not that simple. Red tape, permits, and environmental rules slows new logging or mill expansions to a snail's pace. Labor's tight. Forestry can't find enough hands, even for extra shifts. Plus, wildfires and harvest limits have shrunk available timber. Experts say boosting output takes years, not months, too late for this crisis. So, as U.S. tariffs rose and mills lagged, Canada fired back fast. By mid-July, Reuters broke news. Ottawa's mulling export quotas on U.S.-bound lumber. The aim? Protect Canadian jobs and fuel their own building boom. Even if it leaves U.S. buyers scrambling, BC's premier signaled he's ready to cap exports, a big shift after years of avoiding that move. Once quotas kick in, every to buy 4 turns into a ration treasure for American builders. Why's Canada going this far? Their mills are already maxed out at home. Ontario's running over 80% capacity to meet a green construction surge. Think eco-friendly homes and tall wood towers. Local needs come first if exports get capped, so Canadian wood stays north. Other options for the U.S. are slim. Europe, Germany, Sweden sent 3.4 million cubic meters in 2023, a drop in the bucket compared to Canada. Shipping slow and costly. and no one else can match the volume fast. Lumber futures hit $640 per thousand board feet in April, a high not seen in years. If quotas hit before fall, prices could soar past $750, echoing the 2021 spike that added thousands to home costs. Reuters survey shows U.S. housing starts are at a 10-month low, thanks to high rates. A lumber cutoff could sink it further, threatening the housing recovery. But Canada's got a trick up its sleeve. They're not just capping exports, they're eyeing new markets. With trade deals like the CPTPP, tariffs on Canadian wood will hit zero for Japan, Australia, and more. Europe's CETA offers duty-free access too. Instead of raw lumber, Canada's pushing mills to make value-added stuff-engineered panels, prefab walls, fancy cabinetry. These dodge the worst U.S. tariffs and fetch better prices. Canada's plan: limit raw wood to the U.S., sell high-end goods abroad, and keep profits home. If quotas lock in before autumn, lumber prices could explode, wiping out recent relief and hiking home costs again. Canadian mills in Ontario and Quebec would churn out materials for local green projects and overseas buyers, leaving the U.S. with scraps at a premium. This fight's spilling beyond lumber. U.S. tariffs are now hitting steel, soy, you name it, levels not seen since the 1930s. Yale's budget lab warns it could stall growth and spike unemployment by year-end. Consumer prices might climb to 0.2%, draining to $1,900 yearly from families than pricier groceries and hardware. Steel tariffs raised car production costs by $1,100 per truck per S&P Global. Builders face higher bills for beams and rebar too. The UNCTAD says this could push factories overseas, weakening the economy long-term. Markets are jittery. Home construction stocks dropped 7% since the tariff news, and corn futures hit a 13-month peak. The White House says jobs will return, but economists argue tariffs often shrink markets, not build them. This trade war's hitting Main Street hard. Border shopping's drying up. Niagara's Rainbow Bridge saw car traffic plunge in May. Erie County sales tax revenue dipped 6%, a $4.8 million loss, blamed on fewer Canadian shoppers. Outlet malls and diners near the border are quieter, cutting hours or staff. A Dunham survey on May 30th found 70% of Canadians plan to skip U.S. goods this year, driven by pride and tariff anger. That could slash U.S. border retail revenue by a third on weekends. It's a double whammy. Canada chokes lumber, and Canadians ditch U.S. stores. Washington can't fix this with a quick fix. Consumer choice is a wild card. If this keeps up, it's a wake-up call. Trade wars tax us all. Hit like and subscribe. Your support keeps us going. Before we dive in, no, this is just my take, based on my read of the world. Friends, your like fuels more daily videos. Thanks.